Hari Om, Yoga Warriors, Mickey Space here, working on our next Pranayama session. So far, if you've followed our sessions, we've worked with Ujjayi breath, and we've also worked with full yoga breathing, so both energizing and relaxing breaths. Today I'd like to explore the bandhas. So bandhas, you could translate bandhas as locks or binds. And these are locks that we create in the body both physically but also energetically. So the physical action of the bandhas helps to enhance the areas that you're working physically. So the muscles, there's three main bandhas, so also working on our digestive system as we physically contract around the abdomen. But also very importantly to consider the energetic aspect of the bandhas. So when we're talking about pranayama, you've got to see this practice on various levels. We've got, of course, we're working with breath work, and we know that on that physical level, breath enhances our lung capacity, enhances the uptake of oxygen, which moves into the blood. So it's a full body workout enhancement, but also to consider the energetic aspect. We're working with prana. So I mean, really on that deeper level, that's what pranayama is about. It's about working with your energy, your life force. Pranayama means to enhance, to expand this life force. So the bandhas, these are locks that we engage, are locks that help to even boost this life force further. So we generally perform our bandhas within the context of pranayama, because you can also use bandhas with your asana work. So you might often hear your teachers say, engage your mula bandha during a certain asana, because on that physical level, as I said, it works certain muscles, and part of it is to interact with your core. So quite useful on that physical level to bring in that core engagement, that core strength. But on the energetic level, the bandhas are creating these locks to help contain, and within that containment, boost your energy. So, three main locks. There are even more, but let's work the three main locks. The Mula Bandha, Uddiyana Bandha, and the Jalandhara Bandha. So these locks, Mula Bandha is your base lock, Uddiyana Bandha is your abdominal lock, and Jalandhara Bandha is the chin lock or throat lock. So how do we do these? A little hard to show. We need to just conceptualize and understand it. So the base lock is essentially the perineum area, so that space between the anus and the genitals. At a sort of broader level, it's the pelvic floor muscles. So base lock or Mula Bandha is essentially engaging the pelvic floor muscles. When we sort of become more familiar, when we fine-tune our awareness to that area, we start to, initially you kind of squeezing everything below, you squeeze the anus around the genitals, that whole area, but then ultimately you try to pinpoint the space between the anus and the genitals, the perineum, so that it becomes subtler and subtler, this engagement, as you build your sensitivity to this area. So it takes practice. It's like anything else. We're working certain muscles. On a physical level, that can enhance the physical abilities of those areas. So it helps with all sorts of things, excretion, just making that whole lower area healthier. used also in tantric practices to enhance from that sexual aspect of Tantra, to enhance the performance down below. But the idea is to engage those muscles so that we're allowing the energy to be retained from below, so it doesn't kind of leak. The prana itself, we talk about different stages of prana in the body, and there is a sense of apana. Apana is the excretory energy. So remember, prana is essentially energy, so we need a certain energy for excretory purposes. So down below, as we know, we do excrete, but there's also this sense of leaking of energy that can happen. So engaging the Mula Bandha helps to withhold the energy from below. So quite an important one to familiarize ourselves with, Mula Bandha. Uddiyana Bandha is drawing the stomach in towards the spine. So it's kind of like you want to suck the belly in, almost in and under and up, in and under and up inside the rib cage, under the rib cage there. So when we're performing that, and we also work on when do we do this. Ideally, I mean, you can do it either after a deep inhale, holding the breath in, sucking in, but more effectively after an exhale, holding the breath out. So we've released all the air out of the lungs, we've cleared out, and so then there's more space to be able to draw the belly in and up, and then that gives you that greater boon for stimulating that area. Now on the physical level there, where when we're drawing the belly in, you're essentially squeezing all the abdominal organs. So that squeeze into the abdominal organs massages, stimulates your abdominal organs, all the digestive organs. And so that's a boon to your digestive system. But more specifically, we draw in, and then it's almost like you want to then lift up under the rib cage there, and along the bottom of the rib cage lies the pancreas. And the pancreas is the organ which is essentially an endocrine gland, an endocrine organ, because it produces hormones. And the main hormone that it produces there is the insulin. And insulin is the hormone that allows us to draw in the energy from the food that we eat. So as we may realize, people, let's say with diabetes, have trouble with their insulin production. So sometimes they need to take insulin, or they need to take external sources of energy, sugar, essentially, have to drink Coca-Cola or whatever it might be, to give them the energy that they require, because the pancreas isn't producing insulin at the rate they need. So essentially the idea is, when we stimulate there through our bandhas, we squeeze that gland, that pancreas, kind of giving it a little ring out so that it stimulates the production of that hormone insulin. So a great one, basically, to allow us to be more self-sufficient with our energy. And that translates then also on an energetic level. Around that area is the solar plexus chakra, and that chakra is the chakra that essentially is the chakra of the I, me, my, the identity of self. So when we're strong in our own identity, we have our own self-sufficient energy. When we're lacking in self-worth, self-identity, we tend to vulture energy off other people. So on various levels there, we could also say on that spiritual level, being strong in who we are is really important, so that we are self-sufficient in our own energy. So bandhas, fantastic for all of that. Also, just on that note of that solar plexus, that is also the place where we store this, store our prana, store our energy, our life force. So on that energetic level, we draw the energy in towards there. So in and up from below to stop the energy from seeping down below, from in front, drawing it in and storing it there at the solar plexus. And then the final bandha, it's called Jalandhara bandha, the chin lock, is where you essentially just drop the chin in towards the chest or towards the neck. So you just sort of draw the chin in. So you're squeezing into the throat. And the idea is there to stop the energy from leaking above as well. So from above it comes down, from below it comes up, and then we gather it all at the solar plexus and suck it right in. So we're boosting, holding, enhancing the energy. So we can do this as a practice on its own, but also we can bring the bandhas into some of the other pranayams as well. So that's why it's important to really understand, to get the bandhas, because then it becomes a powerful tool to enhance all of our pranayama. So just occasionally we could use some or all of the bandhas during other pranayama work. So as a practice on its own, we call it, it has a couple of names, the Mahabandha, which means the great lock, the great bandha, or Bandha Trayam. Bandha Trayam just means three, the three locks. So when we work with the bandhas on their own, Bandha Trayam, the three locks, as suggested, after an exhale, we hold without breath and engage those three locks. And so we're working with these retentions as well. These retentions we call kumbhakas. Now, being really mindful of kumbhakas, because if we're not used to holding the breath in or out, it can get a little spacey, maybe a little uncomfortable. So only work within your own limitations, like the asana practice, bandhas and pranayama, just being mindful of what feels right for you. Don't force, never force. Just tune into how you feel. Hold for as long as is comfortable, but then when you need to, you breathe in or out to continue the breath rhythm. So these kumbhakas, retentions, when we hold the breath in, that's called the antar kumbhaka, and when we hold the breath out, the bihar kumbhaka. So this one is on the out breath, the three locks. So first of all, we take some slow, deep breaths in through the nose and work a nice abdominal breath. So you're in a full yoga breath, if you like. So you're just enhancing the breath all the way into the belly, right up through the chest. So really maximizing that intake of breath. And after a few rounds of deep breathing, you take a deep breath in. You might have a little hold there for a moment, and then with the exhale, one of the few times we breathe out through the mouth to maximize the exhalation. So we exhale all the breath out, so releasing the whole body of breath. And once all the breath is squeezed out, we engage those three locks and hold without breath. So Mula Bandha, pelvic floor lock, Uddiyana Bandha, stomach in and up, and Jalandhara Bandha, chin into the chest. And we hold without breath for as long as you can. Visualize that energy being compressed and enhanced at the solar plexus. When you need to breathe again, slowly in through the nose. Try to keep the locks engaged to begin with. And once the breath is back in, then slowly release the locks. So we start to really fine-tune our awareness to these locks to be able to control them really, really well. So initially it's a little hard to control those locks, particularly Mula Bandha, because the muscular memory isn't there yet. But like all things, we build up these muscles to make them strong and powerful. Also, these locks also sort of known as, translated as valves. They're like little valves. Think of a valve in an air mattress. When you let it go really quickly, or you open it up, all the air just rushes out. So again, even here, we're wanting to control this energy to enhance it. So even on the release, just slowly letting those air valves out. So it's released nice and controlled. Let's try again together. A couple of deep breaths in, into the belly. And then the next inhale, nice deep breath in through the nose. All the breath out through the mouth. Without breath, Mula Bandha, base lock. Uddiyana Bandha, stomach lock. Jalandhara Bandha, chin lock. Holding without breath for as long as you can. As you need to breathe again, breath slowly in through the nose, and then slowly releasing those locks. Close the eyes and come back to your deep abdominal breath, and we should feel that after effects, just even that muscular contraction that happened in those three areas. So relax the belly. See that whole area, the solar plexus, also on another level helping to ignite our digestive fire. So this is where the fire burns to digest our food, our nutrition. And it's nice to also visualize that solar plexus like a sun. Essentially it is a sun, and the energy then radiates out through the whole body like the rays of the sun. Let's work that one more time. Deep breath in through the nose. Out through the mouth. Without breath, Mula Bandha, Uddiyana Bandha, Jalandhara Bandha. Holding without breath for as long as you can. As you need to breathe back in. Slowly into the nose, gently releasing the locks. Relaxing the stomach, coming back to a slow abdominal breath. Visualizing that inner radiance. Energy radiating out from the solar center, like the rays of the sun, spreading that radiance right out through the whole body. So generally speaking, in a pranayama practice, I like to work the bandhas 3 times. So I use it as part of my rhythm, my daily rhythm. And ideally first thing in the morning when the stomach is empty, before we eat. You may just like a little tea or a warm water with lemon first thing in the morning, but otherwise empty stomach, coming to practice our bandhas and then our other pranayama rhythms as our early morning practice. So I hope you've understood, got the gist of these bandhas, these locks. Start practicing them. It doesn't have to be first thing in the morning, but make sure it's not straight after a meal. And we'll begin incorporating them into our other practices. Thank you very much for joining me today.